Okay, alright. Third time's the charm. Let's talk about Archhags. So, do you like monsters that can take an entire campaign to defeat? Do you like planar and multiversal adventures? Do you want a spell on you? Well, I got a monster for you. This may be a longer than usual video, so sit down, relax, grab some popcorn, grab a few sodas, because today we're going to figure out how do you DM the Archhag. Right, so Archhags as a stat block have only ever appeared in 5.5e, but there are references to Archhags before the stat block ever existed in every edition of D&D. In first edition, the most notable and only Archhag to appear in many sources leading up to second edition is Baba Yaga. This is the art from Dragon Magazine 83, where they created a whole adventure around her dancing hut. As you can see, she is an old hooded figure with a cane, but the most interesting thing about her, to me, is her tusks. I imagine this choice was made to make her look a little bit more evil than just like an old lady with a cane, but I can't help but wonder if there was an inspiration from orcs for her design, because orcs bad. In second edition, we saw a new Archhag, known as Tasha, in the Lost Caverns of Sajkanth. That's how we're going to pronounce that today. While extremely powerful and the adoptive daughter of Baba Yaga, we don't know if she is even on par with her mother or not. Baba Yaga also returns, looking even older, but she lost her tusks, so good for her. Third edition sees Tasha return, looking very goth mommy. Meanwhile, Baba Yaga is gone. Cue Crabrave. Fourth edition sees Baba Yaga return with an interesting piece of art in Dragon Magazine 196. It isn't my favorite, but we do actually see an actual stat block for her. And I would consider this actually the first Archhag stat block, since she is literally the first of her kind. Maybe 4th edition isn't so bad after all. Nah. 5th edition sees a whole book to the Fae called The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, where we see the sisters of Tasha, Bavlorna Blightstraw, Endlin Moongrave, and Skabatha Nightshade. I don't think any of these would be considered Archhags though, as they don't seem nearly as powerful as even Tasha. Speaking of which, we see her in here too. Funny enough though, we see no Baba Yaga, even though she is mentioned. Tasha also gets her own book in 5e, so there is that. And finally, we make it to 5.5e. And this is where it all culminates, because now we have an Archhag stat block in the 5.5e monster manual. And the art, as usual, is great. And these Archhags are neither Tasha nor Baba Yaga. So, the question is, who are they? Well, I'm going to guess that with Baba Yaga being so extremely above any other Archhag that it's impossible to kill her, DM depending, and Tasha being used so much up to now that the designers wanted to explore lesser Archhags to Baba Yaga, which will also expand possible adventures, as they are no longer limited to what we know right now. That's how I see it at least. Archhags are the most powerful hags, the cream of the crop if you will. These are the type of hags that have mastered their craft and only do things to further a major purpose. They are incredibly greedy and seek to collect magical secrets that would make Merlin blush. As always, they are willing to make a deal with anyone that is seeking magical secrets or items, but expect a heavy toll for making such deals, like your soul being used in their grand plan. It is stated that they prefer not to fight, but if forced to, they can definitely hold their own against even the strongest adventurers. Much like normal hags, you will also rarely find one by herself, as Archhags very much prefer to be in covens where they can cast their circle magic. Underutilized 5.5e mechanic right there. There is one thing about these hags though, that is different from their sisters, and that is their anathemas. These anathemas are the keys to killing any Archhag, as it must be present during the death of the Archhag for them to die. Anathemas can be a lot of things, but they are always something that requires an extortionate amount of time to find. Like, for example, from the book, a devil's tear. How you want to go about getting something like that is beyond me, but you can most certainly try. Now for the real meat and potatoes. The stat block for these monsters is huge, and we are going to take a look at a lot here, so let's get straight to it. The Archhag has a 20 AC, 333 HP, speed of 40 feet, plus 16 initiative, so they are always going to go first, I'd imagine. An interesting 24 strength, 15 dexterity, 23 constitution, 19 intelligence, 19 wisdom, and a very high 25 charisma. These numbers suggest a monster that is extremely strong physically, decently fast, able to withstand a lot of physical damage, internal and external, very smart, knows a ton about the natural world and not easily fooled, and so charismatic that no one could resist its charm and knows exactly how to get what it wants. This is further pushed by its skill proficiencies being deception, perception, and persuasion. They have cold, fire, and psychic resistance, and charmed, exhaustion, and frightened immunities. 60 feet of true sight makes sure that they almost seem omniscient, and they know all languages. Moving on to its traits, these monsters have coven magic, allowing 3 or more hags in a certain radius from one another to cast spells without material components, legendary resistance, magic resistance, and spiteful escape, which allows these hags to escape if it drops to 0 hit points. Moving on to its actions, we have multi-attack, which allows 3 attack, a spectral claw attack, which is melee or ranged and makes a target prone. Crackling wave allows massive damage and curses the target so that they can't take reactions. And spellcasting, with detect thoughts, dimension door, dispel magic, hypnotic pattern, mass suggestion, modify memory, and plane shift. Moving to its bonus action, they have Witch Strike, where all cursed creatures within 60 feet are damaged. Their reaction is Tongue Twister, which allows the hag to use counterspell and makes the target not able to cast spells and always say the opposite of what they mean to say. Obviously, this isn't enough because there are legendary actions, which are Hag Swipe, which is just a spectral claw, and Malicious Magic, allowing a cast of Dimension Door or Hypnotic Pattern. So that is certainly a stat block. Let's see how we can use this to its full efficiency using the lore and stats combined to make this monster truly terrifying. First of all, as a DM, I am always going to use hags, let alone archhags, as a coven of 3. It just makes sense that these hags combine forces to do what they want to will onto the world. So let's say, planning these archhags from the beginning, I am going to give them all their own anathemas. This forces 1 to 3 whole adventures, depending on how you want to plan this out, because getting every anathema should be its own adventure, individually. With this, I see no other way than to start with the very beginning. So the question is, how do we do that? Well, archhags would never let themselves be known publicly. But they will use enslaved or charmed creatures to do their bidding for them. I would then make it so that people start acting strange, or maybe outright horrible crimes are committed, or creatures just start acting weird. This is where your players should investigate, have some clues like people speaking the opposite of what they mean, or maybe they're just saying some weird stuff and the players are wondering why. And the way for the players to figure that out is that they have to use detect thoughts to understand what the people are actually trying to say. Have people start killing each other and forgetting things that they should know for sure, using the Archhag's mass suggestion and modify memory. The players may figure that it may be a hag, but it's now a game of what kind of hag, because we all know there's multiple. Because usually they are strong, but pretty killable. However, if they confront this Archhag coven, they should be absolutely flabbergasted by the power of them. Here's the fun part. The players should be way too weak to actually do anything against these creatures the first time they see them, but the Archhags should offer them a deal. Anything this party would want, the Archhags will give them. but at a steep cost that comes with a hidden twist. This encounter, combined with the consequences of this deal, should give the players more than enough hatred of these hags to want to kill them. As a DM, these hags will be a constant threat for a long adventure, so be ready to be in this for the long run, because it won't be until the players are level 18 when they can even think about actually fighting these guys. Use the anathemas that you come up with for every one hag in the coven as adventure concepts, and boom, you have a campaign. These adventures for the anathemas should take the players on basically a wild goose chase, where they may question if these items or ideas they are hunting can even possibly exist. Take them to other realms, space, and even universes to find these things. Once they find them, and the fight actually happens, if the players don't have the anathemas, they are in for a really bad time, as they will realize that the hags just get away every time. With the anathemas though, the players will be able to stand a chance against the hags. The fight with archhags should always begin with the hags trying to bargain their way out, or charming the aggressors. If that doesn't work, they may try to escape using plane shift. However, at this point the players should have their own ways to follow the hags. This sets up a really cool battle across multiple planes of existence, and it should culminate in an area of importance to the hags where they would have every advantage that they could have in one area, and the real battle can begin. They will have deadly traps at the ready here, and some pets or equipment that they will definitely use to give them another leg up on the battle. Eventually though, their tricks will be expended, and they will have no other choice but to brawl it out until one side emerges victorious. And with all of that said, I have hyped myself on the idea of running a coven of archhags. It just sounds so good for story progression, and seems like the kind of monster that was built specifically for 5.5 edition of Dungeons & Dragons. But if you have already run a coven of archhags, or even just a archhag, let me know your story down below in the comments, because I would love to hear it. Other than that though, thank you all for watching, and ladies and gentlemen, until next time, let's roll.